Right, welcome to Witchpolice Radio. Once again, as people expect at this point, I'm on the internet talking to people because meeting in person is still a little bit sketchy, even this far along into the lockdown pandemic mode. And I'm here with someone who was last on the show back when we could actually, do interviews in person. So it's been a while. I was trying to think of how long it had been. It's been at least 2 or 3 years at this point. Well, at least two for sure, because the pandemic's been the last two, and probably one or two more beyond that as well. So I do have some questions about what you've been up to and how you've sort of been dealing with this situation that we're all dealing with. But before we get into any of that, if you want to introduce yourself and just give a bit of background about what it is you do as a musician.
Yeah, my name is Jacob Brodovsky. I'm a singer-songwriter. That's about it. I write songs, I sing them.
Cool. And I think that the first time I met you was when you were on the show with your former band, with Kakagi. And then you've been on since as a solo artist as well. So how long has the solo thing been sort of the focus for you?
Well, I put out, I guess when I first moved back to Winnipeg in 2015, I put out a solo record, and then I quickly put the band together, and the band was active from about 2016 until 2019. And then I put out another solo EP in 2019, and I've got a full-length solo record that's going to be coming out real soon.
Awesome. Okay, well, I guess I'm sick of talking about this. I'm sure you are. Everyone is, but we're coming hopefully to the tail end of a pandemic. It's meant that shows haven't been able to happen the way anyone would like them to be. For a lot of people, getting together to record or rehearse or any of that stuff hasn't happened. What have you been dealing with? As an artist, trying to solve a way to stay creative and then stay active during this weird situation we're in.
Yeah, it's I've been doing a few. I'm someone that writes songs about, I guess I like writing songs when I'm doing stuff, when I have stuff to write about. And so I found for the first pretty much year, I didn't really have anything to write about. I was also in sort of like recording mode. So I find when I'm working on recording stuff or making a record, I don't write very much, but I wrote all these like really stupid. I was so angry at our government. I wrote all these stupid government politics songs that will likely never see the light of day. And then I wrote a bit. But so I guess what I've been doing though that's been really helpful is I've been in these song clubs that my pal Natalie Bourne's been running. So she'll have like a Dropbox open, and we all have to submit a song every week.
Oh, cool.
And if we don't submit a song every week, we're kicked out. And so, and then every week you get like this SoundCloud playlist of all the songs everyone's written. So those have been really good for me. It's sort of been really the only way I've been doing any writing is during those song clubs. And then I've also,
it gives you a deadline, right? You're kind of forced to put something together. Yeah.
It gives you a deadline, and I'm motivated by trying to impress people. So it's like when I know some pals or folks I look up to are going to be potentially listening, I tend to do better work. Then I did some online, I did a thing at the Banff Center before the pandemic, and they were running some sort of online writing residency. So I did a few of those, and those were actually really nice too. But yeah, I certainly did not have this super productive pandemic that many others did. I wrote a bit, but not as much as I would have wanted to.
Well, it seems like it's kind of there's such a wide range of experiences, because some people, like you said, have just been like they've managed to buckle down and just write so much material during this time. Others have been completely writer's block, can't do anything. And then most people, I think, are probably where you are, where they've been able to take some of this time and use it productively, but also it's just such a weird situation to be in that I think people are still, even 2 years later, trying to manage how to do anything in it.
Yeah, and I like to write observational stuff, and when you're not observing much, there's not there's not as much, I guess, lighting that you don't get as inspired as maybe I was before. But yeah. Still some stuff coming through. I was talking to a friend of mine, and he sort of said, I think it's finally time. I think we can start writing about COVID.
Right. So enough time has passed that it's not too soon, too early.
Yeah, and I find for me, I can only write about things after they've happened, after I've sort of processed them and made peace with them, I guess. So it sort of feels like we're coming out of the other side a little bit, or at least whatever.
Hopefully,
and
right? Yeah.
So and so I'm sort of able to kind of process it, I guess, and start writing about it.
Well, I thought it was interesting what you said just now about not being able to observe things, because your songs, at least in the past anyway, have been very storytelling songs, very distinct characters, and kind of well fleshed out people in the songs. And it's interesting to think that, you are obviously basing those on real life experiences, and not having that. I would never would have occurred to me that, that inspiration isn't there when you don't have the opportunity to just be out and about and experiencing like other people's lives.
Totally. Yeah, no, that's totally it. I mean, I worked as a server for a long time, and that was sort of like a really like, yeah, abundant fountain of
I bet, yeah.
of material. And it's sort of, I quit that job right before the pandemic, and then so yeah, I think that might have been part of it too.
Cool. So you have a new record that as you mentioned, is coming out soon. Was this a pandemic record? Like, was this being worked on sort of during this time, or had you started getting it together before all of this started?
It wasn't supposed to be. I've never put out a full length album. I put out like 5 EPs and like various different things, and sort of an album has always sort of been something I've really wanted to do. And so this record will be songs as old as like 2018, some tunes that I've been sort of saving since the Kakagi days, that sort of never made it onto Kakagi records and stuff, and then newer stuff. But yeah, so I started tracking it in February of 2020. So it was
like a month before, yeah.
And then what was supposed to be about a month of tracking turned into a year and a half basically. And now I'm just sort of finalizing the last couple content pieces, and then gonna start rolling stuff out, I think, in the next month or so.
Cool. Was the EP thing, I mean, your history of EPs, is that a deliberate thing that happened, or did it just sort of turn out that you had this many songs and they would fit sort of in this little smaller package?
It was always like, oh, we're making a record, here's 10 songs, and then by the end of recording them, it was like, well, I only like 5 of them, so we're only going to put out 5. Yeah.
What happened to the other 5 from each record? Like, do you have this kind of big archive of stuff that didn't make?
They go to the graveyard.
Yeah, never to be heard from again.
Sometimes you'll take little pieces, little body parts from them, and like a line here, a hook there, but generally they just go into a drawer with everything else I throw away.
Right. What can you tell me about this record in particular? Like, how, I mean, people have hopefully heard your solo stuff. They've heard you play with Kakagi. They've heard things over the years. How would you say this is different? What has changed, I guess, about your writing or your playing on this record than people might be familiar with, since no one's heard you live probably in a while?
Yeah, totally. I think a few things. I mean, without sounding like tooting my own horn, I mean, I think the biggest difference with this record is I just sat with it for so long, both the songs and the production, that I just kind of feel like we really took our time. And I started with about 20-25 songs and whittled it down to 10, and so I really feel like it's some of the stronger material I've come up with in the last little while. And then the production's really different. Every other record I've made has really just been like a band in a room. Yeah. You sort of record bass, drums, guitar all together, and you do some vocals and a few guitar overdubs, and you're done. And this was very multi-tracked and very, every song we tracked was just acoustic guitar, vocal, and drum kit, and then we sort of built it from there. And again, because of COVID and whatever, there was a lot of basement and sort of bedroom overdub stuff, and I got to have a lot of different pals play on it.
Cool.
So yeah, it feels a little bit more fully fleshed out than I guess some of my previous stuff.
How do those songs feel now that like you said, you sat with them and lived with them for this long? Do they feel old to you now? I mean, I know they're new to everyone else, but is there any kind of like feeling of like, oh, I've moved on past this stuff now that it's been this long, or are you still as excited about them as you?
No, absolutely. I hate them, and I cannot wait to get them out so I can move on. Yeah.
I think that's a perfectly reasonable answer though, too, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think, if the pandemic hadn't happened, they would have been out probably 2 years ago. So, but at the same time, I can live with them. Like, there's certainly previous work where like 6 months out, I'm just like, let's never speak of this again. And this stuff, I'm still happy with. I'm still proud of it. It's not exciting to play as much as it was, but I'm also sort of trying to do this thing where like I'm going to have different live videos and stuff, and really test out, like, I like the idea that a good song can sort of stand up no matter how you dress it up. So we're trying to do like all these different sort of live videos and different band arrangements and trying to reimagine the songs in different ways. And so it's sort of like rediscovering them a little bit and kind of trying to keep them interesting, at least to myself, because otherwise I'll never play them again.
Well, you also have the benefit, I guess, too, of being able to introduce these to people as well, right? I mean, because as you're rolling them out, it's going to be new to the whole audience, so that there's at least that
Totally.
novelty aspect of it.
Totally, yeah. And like, I've tried them a lot. Like some of these songs I've been playing live for a while, and so I kind of, yeah, it'll be nice to have them out. And I haven't released music in so long. I'm excited to sort of have one more kick at the can and kind of keep going a bit. But but yeah, it's I'm not big into touring for a variety of reasons, but I certainly would not be enthused to play these songs every night for a year.
Do you think that kind of feeling is going to make you move quicker on putting out a follow-up, or are you still, I mean, because like you said, you haven't put out any music in quite a while. It's kind of a long gap in between. Are you like passionate about kind of getting this new stuff out as well as the stuff that's already in the can?
Yeah, in theory, yes. In practice, we'll see. Like I've got most of the next record written right now. I've been working on the last year, and in theory, I'd like to get it done quickly and whatever. But that also like takes money and time, and
of course,
I've got too, and so we'll see. But I also I don't know. I sort of a mentor of mine has always advised me to take my time with things and sit with it and really stew with it for a long time and sort of wrestle with the songs, which it's not like I've got thousands of ravenous fans just waiting for the next song to drop, so I kind of feel like I have the luxury of taking my time.
Right. Well, with your last EP, your last solo EP, it seemed like it seemed like the way it was rolled out and the way it was promoted, it seemed like it was much more kind of professionally done than previous stuff that you've been involved with, and it seemed, as a result, it seemed higher profile. Just because I saw you appearing on shit, like just more often you'd be on show posters or videos coming up online, or it was just out there, kind of in the floating around in the ether, like more prominently. How does that side of things work now? Because like it's still this weird wild west of some people aren't playing shows, some people are. Like, do you do a live stream? It's all up in the air, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've done a few shows. I've gotten better at being choosier. Like I'm so addicted to attention, right? And like I really love playing live, and it's really like my favorite thing in the world. But I've also learned that to play every other week, no one's going to show up.
Right.
Or not, at least not for me. For other folks, absolutely. But so I played a few shows. I played a show in November, and I've got a show coming up in May. But I'm trying to be a little bit choosier with that stuff and just trying to focus on making those shows really special and cool, and not sort of oversaturating myself too much.
Okay. Does I assume that these songs, the new songs, I guess the old new songs, or whatever you want to call them, I assume that they work kind of in a band setting as well as just stripped down acoustically, because that's probably how you wrote them, right? Do you have like, is this set kind of malleable enough that you could potentially just have a full band and do the thing big and loud, and then you can also be just as happy doing it solo in a corner in a small venue?
That's certainly the goal. And I've sort of been kind of cutting it down the middle a little bit. These last couple of shows I did, in November, I opened for the Weather Station, and I've been playing. So I recorded the record with Jason Tate, cool. Who's like my favorite drummer in the world, and he used to play in the Weekends. And
bunch
so
of projects,
Bahamas and Redfish and whatever. So him and I have kind of been playing as a duo, which has been super fun. So just like acoustic guitar and drum kit. So there's it still kind of feels a little bandy. There are a little bit more dynamics and stuff, but it's still pretty bare bones. And then, I'm working on some new some videos right now of the same tunes that I'm making with this band, the Funky Miracles, which is sort of Roman Clark and John Barron, Austin Parahoniak and Kieran Placetka. They're sort of like 70s funk revival band, and having them kind of reinterpret the tunes. And so, yeah, it's fun. I don't know. It's been fun doing a whole bunch of different things. I like playing solo too. I just, playing solo for a captive audience is amazing and like the best feeling in the world. And playing solo for a band that for a bar full of people that wants to hear a band is soul crushing. So I'm trying to be, realistic and I guess sort of, intentional with sort of how I present the tunes in different shows.
Yeah. Is that I like the idea of having like a funky thing, kind of like, reinterpreting your stuff, because I mean, that's maybe far from what I expect when I think about your songs, but is that something that you're kind of open to? Is it getting other collaborators to sort of
Oh
take
yeah,
your raw material and do something to it?
I love it. Yeah, it's honestly, we were just jamming for the first time at Rowan's last week, and like, oh, it was so much fun. And I also think it's hilarious because a lot of these songs are really sad. So to present them in this like really not obnoxious, but kind of obnoxious, like sort of, metersy 70s or
Yeah,
like band kind of thing. It's been really fun. And I don't know. I think my favorite part of writing songs is hearing how other people interpret them, because I can go all day. I can track all the stuff and make it sound like how it sounds in my head, but that's specific to my brain.
yeah.
And it's really cool to hear how like other people interpret them and sort of apply their own influences and their own tastes to them.
And once they're gone out of your head onto some kind of recording, it's out of your control anyway, right? I mean, the way people are
Yeah,
gonna feel it and hear it, and yeah.
totally. And yeah, I try not to be too precious about it. Like it's I'm lucky to have a lot of really talented pals, and the community's so supportive and collaborative. It's fun. It's a fun way to hang out. It's just to work on songs.
Yeah, for sure. So what is your sort of plans for the near future as far as playing shows and things? I mean, I know you have the record that you're hoping to put out soonish, but do you have like a bunch of stuff set up, or you just have a few shows for now and you're going to see how it goes from there?
Yeah, just a few shows for now. Like I have my wife and I run a summer camp. That was the other sort of big change. Like I've always been a camp person, but we kind of took
I
over
remember that from before. Yeah.
we kind of took over the camp we grew up at over the pandemic. So
That's cool.
Occupies a bit more of my time than it had previously, but it's also nice to kind of have a day job. And it's pretty, the summers are really jam packed, but then it's quite flexible during the off season. So it's kind of a nice balance. And so, yeah, so I've got this show in May. I'm going to sort of, I think, roll out the singles over the summer. Maybe a few gigs over the summer, but maybe not. I'll probably be at camp for most of it. And then I want to do a big classic, like Winnipeg CD release, like West End show.
Yeah.
In the fall or winter. And then I'm hopping off, putting some European touring together for early 2023.
Cool. Have you done that yet? Have you been to Europe for?
I did. Yeah, I did one tour through Germany at the end of 2019, and cool. It was divine. Yeah, it was great. German audience, and that sort of goes back to what I was saying about captive audiences. Like German audiences are so polite and listen, and like they'll come up to you after and like talk about that one line that like stood out to them, and like that's what I love.
Cool.
And so yeah, it's super fun. I mean, it's I'm gonna hopefully try and do that again.
Well, I was gonna ask about that. I'm glad you said that, because with your lyrics being so, and I don't know if personal is the right word, but you're telling very personal stories. How does that translate? I mean, I know musically, sure, it's going to translate regardless of where you're playing and what language the people speak there and everything. But I mean, do those kind of nuances in the lyrics come through? I mean, it sounds like they do if the audience is mentioning specific lines and things like that.
Yeah, it was kind of surprising. I think like I like to do, I don't know, I like wordplay and like kind of a little like sneaking in weird references and stuff, and the audiences in Europe really sort of were receptive to that and got it, and the audiences in Canada do too, but it just I think partially because maybe it's like a second language for most folks that live there, that it's sort of like they're like almost like showing, like they get to show off that they understood. Although I don't know, everyone in Europe is so well educated.
Yeah, and they all speak like 9 languages.
They know, I don't know. They speak better English than I do. But yeah, I don't know what it is, but it's weird. But people really were really receptive to it there, and it's cool. It's just like there's I mean, in Canada we have this too, but there's a real cool like singer-songwriter culture there, and people really like that kind of thing. And it was a really nice place to spend some time.
That's cool. So would you go back to Germany, or are you going to try and expand that a bit, or is that still sort of to be determined?
The plan is to go back to Germany, and then hopefully maybe a little bit sort of peripherally, like Austria and the Netherlands. But I was working with a late, or like a booking agent in Germany, and that was sort of, I'd like to sort of go back and reinforce some of the markets that I played in.
Yeah. Well, and you have the advantage too, being out there, of everything being so close to each other, right? All the cities, all the venues. We're like the worst. Yeah. We're the complete opposite here in Manitoba, where there's like nothing, right?
Yeah, no, the drives are much easier, although they're terrifying. You're driving like a Sprinter van down the Autobahn at like 180 kilometers an hour, but it's cool. It's a good place to tour. It's just getting over there, which can be pricey, but we're so lucky in Canada to have government funding and stuff.
Yeah,
that really supports that kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. That is cool. Do you have a title for the album yet?
Yeah, it's called "I Love You and I'm Sorry."
Okay. It's a good title. And that kind of, I mean, not having heard the songs on the record, but it does seem to suit sort of you have a bit of a melancholy vibe in a lot of your songs, and that seems appropriate. Like, it seems like it would fit.
Yeah, it was honestly, I had the title before I had the record, and then I wrote the song, and then I have a song called "I Love You and I'm Sorry" that like I rewrote 6 times. But that, it kind of sums up the whole thing. And like, I like to sort of, with my tunes, I kind of try and like, my goal is always to like make you like chuckle in the first verse and then sort of punch you in the gut in the third verse.
Yeah.
So it's sort of trying to go for that kind of thing.
Is that just sort of naturally how your stories come out, with that sort of downer ending and then like the kind of it's a little lighter to begin with, or is that like a practice? I mean, have you sort of, is it intentional, or is it just sort of the way that you relate your ideas?
I think it's just what I like in a song, and so I'm just trying to mimic what I like. I think humor is a really great way to show people you don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
And also like bring people in, kind of like engage with an audience, and then it's I'm playing folk songs. You want the gut punch. You want the
you do. Yeah.
You want the
Well, and especially if you're playing by yourself too, it's just you and a guitar.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you don't have all the bells and whistles to get people's attention, so you have to do it with the limited tools at your disposal.
Totally.
Which is mostly lyrics, right? So
totally, yeah, it's certainly not my guitar playing. Yeah, no, it's mostly lyrics. Yeah.
So, I mean, if people haven't heard of you before and they want to check out some of your stuff, what's the best? You have, maybe before I ask this question, you have a pretty decent catalog now. Like you said, there's 5 EPs over the course of however many years with different projects. What's the starting point? I mean, assuming someone hears this before the new record's out, where would you direct them to sort of hear what you're about and what you sound like?
Oh, it's a great question. Part of me is like, don't listen to any of it and wait for the record to come out. But no, I think the last EP I put out, 16 years, is sort of a pretty good, like, it's certainly a little bit dated now, and I think I like to think that I've sort of progressed and developed a bit, but that's a good starting point. I still like that record, and those are the types of songs that I like to write, songs about like growing up and nostalgia and sort of, and then random stuff. That's that whole thing. And the Kikagi material too, like the Stay Up Late EP is again, it's a record of a time and a place, and now is like 4 years old already, but yeah, I think any of that stuff. But I'd say the 16 years EP is probably what
that makes the most sense.
Least,
it's your most recent release too, right? So yeah.
what I'm happiest with, let's say.
Cool. And then where can you be found online? Where can someone hear that? What's the best option there? I mean, I know there's so many different options to listen to music these days. I mean, it's every day there's a new service that pops up or whatever. Where would you sort of direct someone for the best benefit to you, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on all the streaming services or whatever. I like Tidal. Tidal pays artists better, and honestly, more so than that, you get the liner notes on Tidal.
Oh, nice.
And I really value that. But I'm also on Bandcamp, and that's every now and then I'll get a funny little email if someone bought a bunch of stuff on Bandcamp, and it's a nice, puts a spring in your step.
Yeah,
I had a guy in like I don't know, like Kentucky bought my entire catalog. He had like just randomly on a whim, and
that's cool.
It was nice. We had a nice little email back and forth. And I was like, it's going to take me a long time to get you all these.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm out of town, but yeah.
Well, that's interesting about Tidal. I didn't know that. Like, I have avoided all the streaming services because I'm one of the main reasons is because I like to sit down when I'm listening to a record and just, even if I've read them 1,000 times, just read the liner notes and look it over while the packaging while I'm listening. So that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, Tidal's cool, and then you can also like browse, like you can click on the producer and then see all the records that producer's produced, and like it's cool. They also have better quality sound.
Oh, nice.
Like more like hi-fi. I don't really know the science behind it, but apparently it sounds better.
Cool, cool. And then as far as upcoming shows and things like that, if someone wants to check out what you're doing, I mean, the good thing about this being a podcast is it's someone could hear it next week or they could hear it a year from now, and by then you
Yeah.
might have a bunch of shows. So what's the best way to sort of follow you, I guess, keep in touch and find out what you're up to?
I'm on Instagram at Jacob Brodovsky, Brodovsky. The amount of music industry people that have told me to pick a moniker is
Oh, really? The one you give a
a
stage name?
lot,
Yeah, yeah.
a lot, but I don't know. I can't think of a good one. Yeah, and then I've got a show May 21st at the Handsome Daughter with Diaphany and Big
Cool.
Loser, which
Cool.
will be super fun. Yeah.
Awesome.